It's the first week of October 2025. I'm Dave. I'm here with Andrew, and you're listening to BV Weekly. This week, we'll be talking about the sudden explosion of Geese, the comeback of Hum, some potentially exciting Sonic Youth news, and more. Also, this episode is going out to Lou from Sick of It All, who sadly revealed this week that his cancer has returned. If you're able to help Lou out at all, there's a GoFundMe you can donate to, and we've included it in the link in the description of this episode, or else I'm sure you can find it. Wishing you the best, Lou. So, Bad Bunny was announced as a Super Bowl halftime show performer.
Yeah, it's definitely already causing a stir, and it hasn't even happened yet.
I mean, I even said to you were like standing by. We knew the announcement was coming. We had that up on BrooklynVegan like the second it was announced that Bad Bunny was it. A second earlier, we didn't know who it was going to be. Did you predict Bad Bunny at all?
Bad Bunny was rumored heavily.
Okay.
So I knew that was like for sure a chance. I figured it was between. I mean, I'm always wondering too if they're gonna go and do Morgan Wallen. So I wondered if it'd be him. And they had already ruled out that Taylor Swift and Adele both turned it down, I believe. So
people were throwing around Metallica too. What happened to that?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't want to say never, but like, I feel like the only people who want Metallica to play are members of Metallica and Metallica's diehard fan base. I don't think that I've never heard like consideration of this from the people who actually put together the Super Bowl show.
Are you like in that circle? Is that
what do you mean?
Happening? What you're saying?
Oh, no. I just mean like when you see like the leaks of sources that know, what they're planning, what they're looking for. Like I feel like it's like Metallica is just campaigning for it, and I don't think that Jay-Z is trying to book him. I don't know.
I heard Usher's wants Metallica in there, right?
That something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. You're Metallica. Listen, I'm a huge Metallica fan. I obviously want Metallica in there, but also Metallica continue to surprise me at how big they are. I just went both nights. They did 2 nights at MetLife Stadium. They were just in Fortnite, which was a huge boost for them. I don't know. They continue to be one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah, and they're like approaching that classic rock status that like the Who and the Rolling Stones had when they played and stuff.
Right.
So I think it could happen one day, and I do think it would be cool to have a rock halftime show, or a metal halftime show. But I don't know that at the moment. I don't know that there's real talk of it besides Metallica expressing interest year after year. It's almost like it feels like a meme to me at this point. Like, oh, another year, another Metallica campaigning for. They're like the third party,
Got it.
But it would be cool, obviously. Even though, I guess we're going to have to get into like some of the instant backlash of Bad Bunny as people being I want to go ahead.
Super predictable. So that's where I was going earlier. 2 seconds after it was announced, I think the first thing I said to you was, is MAGA mad about this?
Right. And of course, lo and behold, that became immediately true.
And I mean, it was going to happen no matter what, because MAGA loves ICE. And just days earlier, Bad Bunny had released a statement about how he's not going to play the U.S. out of fear of ICE raids at his concerts. So right there, you knew there was going to be trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, to go further than that, I mean, it's going to be the first halftime show ever that is sung entirely, barring any guest singers, in English.
Yeah, does he have any songs in English?
No, he has no songs in English.
Okay.
Outside of like, again, like an occasional hook, like the song, and usually with a guest. Like I think the song with Drake, it's like, or no, like there's like the like the song with like the put me in VIP, like very very occasional like Spanglish parts, I guess.
Right.
But no, he has no songs in English. And also, I mean, to me, and a lot of people rather, like, that's one of the reasons this is so historic. Like, he was a guest when Shakira and Jennifer Lopez headlined in 2020 alongside J Balvin. Now he's headlining. Shakira, like, very, very famously made an album in English in order to break into the American mainstream. And it obviously worked, but she was a massive star in Latin America prior to that with multiple albums sung entirely in Spanish. Bad Bunny, like, like, and that was really important, and I think it had to happen. But Bad Bunny was able to cross over into the American mainstream without making songs in English. So this is like really like his rise has been so historic this whole time. When he became a Coachella headliner, that was historic. Now he's doing the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and that's once again historic because again he's like I've gotten this far in America without singing in English, and like something like I think it's 48 million Americans speak Spanish. Like it's in places like New York and many places in California and Texas and Florida, like it is absolutely bilingual. So like I do understand that some places in America are far from bilingual, but like living in New York, it's to me, I'm like, yeah, like of course a Spanish speaking person is famous. Like, I mean,
I know not everyone agrees with this, but like as someone who's not a big lyrics person, it doesn't bother me that Bad Bunny is in, like, just in case there's any implication here that you have to understand Spanish to enjoy the music. Like, it's just
right.
not true.
Oh
So
yeah,
that
it's
there's
so
also that.
catchy. Yeah, right. Like I don't know what the words mean all the time. Like I know a few Spanish words, like
Right.
but
But you're the biggest Bad
but
Bunny fan
right,
on this podcast,
I
definitely.
can like sing along to his songs to the
Yeah.
best of my ability because the vowel sounds and the melodies are tangible, like so yeah, I mean I'm super excited for the show. I mean I haven't seen him in person, but I did watch the Coachella live stream and it was epic. I've seen, tons of other performance videos. I have no doubt that it's going to be epic.
And he's just, I mean, it was an obvious choice
Right.
because he's literally one of the most streamed artists.
He's the most streamed artist globally on Spotify for 3 consecutive years this decade, and he's been in the top 5 in the US for multiple consecutive years as well. So yeah, also like for anybody being like, oh, like who in America knows this guy? I'm like, most people, like most people who listen to music statistically, actually.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, people get mad every year
Yeah.
at who's going to be on there. And now this whole kind of like mad, as like MAGA is mad, that's just like the latest. It's like the latest, they were, MAGA was also just mad at Guar at Riot Fest, which was hilarious.
Right, which was like fake. Like it
Yeah.
started from like a troll account that was joking, and then like yeah. Anyway,
Yes. And Tipper Gore was actually the name I was going for there. People were mad at metal bands in the 80s for being satanic. We got warning labels, the government. This is like just like a new version of this every 5 seconds. I've seen popular tweets that say Bad Bunny is satanic. People mad that Bad Bunny, I don't know the context of this picture, but Bad Bunny has worn a dress at least once. And this picture is viral in MAGA world as like, this is who they're choosing. Like
Mhm.
it's like pathetic.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's absolutely. I mean, yeah, MAGA was gonna get mad if they chose anybody that wasn't Morgan Wallen. I think like or someone like him. Who in related news, Haley Williams apparently said that the racist country singer in her song is in fact about Morgan Wallen. Funny that broke this week too. But yeah, I'll also just say, I have seen posts from sort of these right wing influencer types saying like, oh, like if Bad Bunny is Super Bowl, like if you're excited that he's playing, like you're not American, or like something about this is un-American or unpatriotic to have Bad Bunny. And like a couple responses to that is one, I mean the Super Bowl is viewed on a global level. The audience outside of the U.S. has been increasing in the tens of millions, and I do assume that the NFL and Jay-Z are trying to get as many viewers as possible. And of course, they would pick the most streamed artist globally for their halftime show. Like, there's no higher win than that if you want just to have the most successful and most watched show possible. And also, I mean, first of all, Puerto Rico is part of America. Bad Bunny is a US citizen. I don't think that should matter, but it is true. And if you think it is somehow un-American to have Bad Bunny, I would just have to ask if you felt the same way when the Super Bowl booked Coldplay or The Who or the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney or U2, or if there's something else that you're upset about in this case. That all being said, the other side of this is I think people on the left are wondering is he going to make some kind of political statement on stage like Kendrick did? And I mean, I think,
I mean, personally, I'm just wondering if it's going to be an enjoyable show by a
yeah,
popular musician.
I mean that too. Like, right. We're doing it right now, but everyone overthinks this. We put way too much emphasis into who is the halftime show performer. Is it up to my standards? Like, it's like, who cares? It's a 10 to 15 minute performance in the middle of a football game. None of it's really live anyway. Like, people who are asking about, oh, I want to see instruments on stage, even if it was Metallica, they're not going to be plugged in. It's going to be mimed. Like, that's what you do at the Super Bowl. So
I'm not a football fan. I watch the Super Bowl for the commercials and the halftime show, no matter who it is.
right. Like, it seems to me like most of the people mad are the type of people who want to watch the Super Bowl anyway. And then, like, so kind of like, there's definitely a correlation between football fans. Okay, I'm stereotyping. I don't want to say that, but like, I think a lot of people who aren't football fans watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show. And I think a lot of those people also tend to, like art that is probably more in the leftist world, if we're totally generalization. But anyway, yeah, it's a great get. It's going to bring in a lot of viewers. It's going to be really entertaining, and it's not that deep. Like, I mean, you said Metallica, like, I feel like the way I feel about the Grammys too. Like, you're going to complain, oh, it's this, megastar versus that megastar. Like, none of the artists that, I mean, we love Bad Bunny, but like, 90 something percent of the artists we love are never even going to be in the conversation for this. Like, who cares?
Well, speaking of politics and also of sick of it all, I spent all day on Saturday at CBGB's Fest. Luckily, my COVID went away just in time, so I was a little worried, but yeah, I was able to. CBGB's Fest took over Under the K Bridge, this newish outdoor venue in the public park underneath the bridge in remote Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I say remote because it's like a 20-minute walk from the subway is the closest way to get there. But it was amazing. It was CBGB Fest was so good. I say, speaking of sick of it all, because the lineup, it was on 3 stages. There was like something for every kind of punk fan, and there was like a lot of hardcore, including Cro-Mags, classic stuff like Cro-Mags and Gorilla Biscuits, and newer stuff like Scal and Angel Dust. And Gorilla Biscuits, who closed out, they were actually the last band playing in the far stage final set of the night, and they always, like they always do, they're shouting out fellow New York hardcore bands that influenced them, even though they're a super old band too. And they ended with let's especially give a shout out to Sick of It All right now. So yeah, anyway, that felt special. But other highlights of CBGB's Fest were Pink Shift, whose set, honestly, sometimes I confuse them as a pop punk band, but their set was very hardcore, a little metal. One of my top highlights of the day, Pink Shift, as well as Lambrini Girls. Super, super fun, super political punk set from them from the UK. Linda Linda's completely crushed. And it was also great to see all those bands back to back with Lunatics, legends who completely still bring it, and yelling out lots of political statements between songs as well. A big reason I went was for something a lot less punk, which was Jack White, who I keep missing his solo shows. He's played a lot of solo shows in theaters and clubs in recent years, and I was really into the last solo album, so I was really excited to finally go and see him. And it's just like an hour to an hour and a half of nonstop goodness. I mean, Jack White is just really good at singing, really good at guitar, really good at having a full band show. And he's obviously been in a lot of bands at this point, but very exciting. He played like 7 White Stripes songs, including closing with his biggest hit, Seven Nation Army. There's probably people who would consider Jack White a one-hit wonder. That's how big that song is. Thanks to things like football.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be almost a better halftime show performer than Metallica.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on. A live version of Seven Nation Army by the actual guy who did it.
I saw the video you posted, and the crowd was singing the riff the way they do at sporting events, and I was like, yeah. I
No,
mean,
it felt huge.
yeah.
I listen, you look back at Setlist and Brooklyn Vegan collectively, we've seen Jack White a lot. I was almost surprised he played it because I'm like, I mean, Jack White kind of stood out at CBGB's Fest as like not, am I wrong? He's not really a punk
I
artist.
mean, I feel like he's like a punk ambassador, you know, like the Foo Fighters. Like he comes from it, he loves it, he knows the history, he knows the deep cuts. So
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
you
it
know,
worked. It's
yeah, you would
cool.
never. I mean, he was just at Riot Fest too. Like you can't be punk and accuse Jack White of being out of place. Like, you know, you
Right.
were
Black
wrong.
Keys would
He's
be
more
out of,
punk than you. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Black
Like
Keys would be out of
Black
place.
Keys would be out of place. Yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, and I love Jack White.
yeah.
But so I was still almost surprised when he played close the set with Seven Nation Army. I was happy, but
Hmm.
you know, because the song, I've known the song since before it was this, but it's now just a sports.
No, it's crazy. I mean, I
Yeah,
always think about like growing up as a kid going to Met games and they would always play We Will Rock You by Queen.
right.
And I'm like, oh, that's like a Mets game song, you know, like
Yeah, exactly.
it's not even like a Queen song. Or it's probably other sports too, but you know, I only heard it at Met games. But Seven Nation Army is like that now. It's like the new We Will Rock You. Like, and I'm
Yes,
sure there's like a whole generation of kids who know the riff and will find Jack White and White Stripes and his other bands one day and be like, oh, that's that guy. Like,
totally.
yeah.
And so it was
Hmm.
all, it was, he was great. Jack White
Hmm.
was great. And following Jack White, I was a little worried. We talked about this on the Coachella episode as well, because Iggy Pop is also playing Coachella. Iggy Pop was the actual headliner on the biggest stage of the fest. And I got a little worried that people might clear out. I don't know if Jack White brought his own crowd. I don't know if it's late. I don't know what Iggy Pop's full appeal is, even though this is, quote, CBGB's Fest. So what better festival than for him to be the headliner of?
Right.
But my fears were unfounded because it felt even more packed during Iggy Pop. The place was completely packed. This is the same huge venue that Turnstile played a couple months ago or however long ago that was. That was when it was announced, seemed like the massive show for Turnstile. Well, not as massive as it would be if it was at Madison Square Garden, but still a big, like 8,000 capacity, big outdoor thing. And the place was there for Iggy Pop. There were massive sing-alongs. He's playing his solo hits like The Passenger and Lust for Life. Plus, over half of the 17 song set was Stooges material. Speaking of, you know, it's Jack White. We get White Stripes. We get Jack's other bands. Iggy Pop. We got plenty of Stooges, of course, including songs like Raw Power, Search and Destroy, I Want to Be Your Dog, especially fun. But then he's also doing, you know, it's the arrangements he's doing. There's horns on stage. He's got that kind of like spoken word poetry side to him. So that's kind of worked into the songs, but he's still out there, 78 years old, shirtless as always, like dancing around. His band also includes, it's like a super group with Nick Sinner from Yeah Yeah Yeahs on guitar. Joan Wasser, aka Jonas Policewoman, is in the band. The whole thing was just amazing. The crowd was so there for it, and it was just felt really special. I hope Coachella treats him as well.
Yeah. I mean, Iggy Pop is one of the best live performers I've ever seen. You know, and I've only seen him in his much later years because of my age. Um, it just like I think he's going to be top tier live performer until the day that he can't do it anymore, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I've already mentioned a lot of bands that play, but I'll just say it was all right before, in between Jack White and Iggy Pop on another stage. Marky Ramone, that's how it's billed. Marky Ramone was playing, which is essentially the actual Marky Ramone drumming in a Ramones tribute band, which I'm probably not, you know, he'll like headline Gramercy Theater here doing that. I'm not going to probably go see that, but I'm at CBGB's Fest. So it was nice between Jack White and Iggy Pop to like see some Ramones with at least one actual member of the Ramones. And then Johnny Marr, I've actually never gone to see Johnny Marr solo. So I don't know, I guess I was kind of in denial of the fact that he's very much plays Smith's songs with him singing them. And yeah, it was amazing. I felt like, oh, I didn't realize I needed Johnny Marr singing Smith songs in my life. But
Yeah, it's seeing Johnny Marr is like, I mean, we're never getting a Smiths reunion, and I understand why some people don't want to see Morrissey, but Johnny Marr puts on a really, really good show for Smiths fans.
yes, it's
Yeah,
definitely servicing the fans.
yeah,
And he even kind of joked like, does anyone have any requests? And I didn't realize that he was basically uh, that was supposed to be a joke because he was about to go into the Smiths portion of the set. So people know and are there for it. He's clearly like referencing that.
right,
And
right.
the crowd, sure enough, it was like next level in the crowd. People started singing along and having meltdowns as if it was Morrissey himself up there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, while you were at CBGB Fest, I was home live streaming Global Citizen Fest. Speaking of Shakira, Cardi B played. That was really fun. Nice little couch night of concerts for me, but seemed like the real show of the day on Saturday was stacked because we had All Things Go Festival going on. Doechii headline that day. Sad to have missed that.
You weren't
had
just streaming Global Citizen Fest, you were streaming Global Citizens Fest on Veeps, and then others were actually streaming CBGB's Fest. I should have mentioned that. If you weren't there, maybe you did actually. The Iggy Pop and the Jack White sets both did stream live on Veeps as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
You were saying?
Yeah, I mean, there was that. There was the show that I've hyped on this podcast but didn't make it to, the Black Braid Lamp of Murmur show. But it seemed
I
kind
was
of
super
like,
bummed to miss that.
yeah, it seemed kind of like the show of the day in New York on Saturday was the free outdoor Geese show in Brooklyn.
Yeah, insane. It's like, yeah, Geese, biggest band in the world. Wednesday's album came out a week earlier, and we've been anticipating some Wednesday biggest band in the world happening. But Geese are officially the biggest band in the world.
Not to pit two queens against each other.
No.
But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't see the explosion of Geese happening the way it obviously happened. I mean, this is 9.0 on Pitchfork, high profile music critics saying this is going to be my album of the year. Gen Z's first great rock band. Just the absolute excitement I've seen all over social media from people who tend to have similar music tastes to me and us, just being like, obviously like just living for this band. And rewind just a few years ago, like Geese were kind of not really taken seriously by like indie tastemakers. So it like, I think that it's been, and we'll get into this, but I think it's been a more gradual rise than I'm making it sound right now. But to me, because I was admittedly not super tapped into Geese these past few years, it kind of took me by surprise. I felt like, whoa, all of a sudden Geese went from this band people seem to kind of shrug at to this band people actually do like now to this is like the band of the moment, band of the year, band of a generation. Like it felt like that happened literally overnight. And then when just watching the footage of the Brooklyn show, I was like, oh, everybody in Brooklyn who likes indie music is packed around this band outdoors on the street in Brooklyn. Like it felt like, it felt like classic kind of like, it felt like the place to be. And I'm really bummed I was not there.
It felt like when Drake played South Street Seaport, but didn't actually play.
That's a really good comparison, right? Like one of those moments that you still talk about now. Like it's, I think in 10, 15 years, people who were there are going to reminisce, like, remember the Bankers Anchor Geese show? Like I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, there's so many points I want to say. For one, it's like, are we having the next Strokes moment? Because that gets talked about. People were calling Parquet Courts the next Strokes. This never happened for Parquet Courts. There's a lot of nexts. We posted, they played Kimmel this week, and we posted some footage on the BrooklynVegan Instagram, and somebody's like, clap your hand, say yeah, of 2025. Now, to be fair, clap your hand, say yeah, did feel like this in the moment a little bit too. To go back to South Street Seaport, that's probably one of the bigger, more hyped, like they played that right at the right time. So a lot of people showed up to that show, including David Byrne was in the audience, which, you know, a lot of people compare Alec Allensworth of Clap Your Hands Say Yes voice to David Byrne. So it was especially meaningful that the man himself was there to be like, what is all the hype about? David Byrne then shortly after, probably, I forget the timeline, maybe it was before, showed up on stage with Arcade Fire at Summer Stage, or maybe that was David Bowie that showed up on
I think that was Bowie. That was Bowie, but I think
But
David Byrne was
Byrne-
also famously in the audience at early Arcade Fire shows.
Yeah, David Byrne, exactly. Bowie showed up with Arcade Fire. Byrne also associated himself with Arcade Fire pretty early. And it was like those cosigns that represented, 20, 15 years ago, those kind of moments for us. And
meanwhile, we've AC Newman of New Pornographers had Geese's second record on his top 10 of 2023. So New Pornographers are as older than Geese as Bowie and Byrne were of Arcade Fire. Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah.
Sure.
Not, I mean, I'm sure by the end of this year, I'm sure you're gonna be hard pressed to find a notable alternative indie musician that Geese are inspired by that aren't like hyping them in return. You would be like it. It would be. You would make you seem like, to for all due respect, like, I don't know, has Julian Casablancas said anything yet? Like, but if Julian Casablancas is co-signing Geese, that's good for his career.
Right.
Just like it was good for Bowie to latch on to Arcade Fire. Realistically, it is crazy to think, but it absolutely was good for his career, I think, to do that.
They're getting cosigns from their peers too. I think it's really cool that JPEG Mafia appears on the new Geese album, and GQ, who also did a big feature on Geese, just did one on Wednesday as well. And in that article, MJ Lenderman talks about being a big fan of first Cameron Winter's solo album as well as Geese too. So, you're seeing it like the scene is developing.
So let me kind of back up here, give a little kind of TLDR background lead up to the moment of at least kind of our experience with Geese. And I wonder how many people had a similar one or a different one. But, you've mentioned the Strokes. I've mentioned the Strokes. When Geese came out in 2021 with their first, well, technically their second record, but their first was like self-recorded, I think, and scrapped from the internet. It's like, so the real proper Partisan Records debut, the first album on streaming services as of today, they sounded like the Strokes, and they looked kind of like the Strokes, and they, how many times in our lives have we seen a band come out and just model themselves after the Strokes? Too many times. So personally, I was like rolling my eyes at this band a little bit. I was like, we don't need another Strokes.
Yeah,
and
you and I saw them together.
Yeah.
In 2021.
This was right after COVID lockdown.
Yeah, and it was like, come on, these guys, this is going to be the next big thing. And like you said, you kind of described it. We were like, okay, Strokes.
Right. It felt very industry too. Like, it felt very like this band who, it looked like, seeing them on stage, it looked like they thought they were the next Strokes.
But they were very young.
Yeah, they were 19 at the time, and they're still young. Yeah. They're like 22, 23 now, which is but yeah, they were teenagers. So it's like, I don't fault them for, I think, getting sucked into probably people blowing smoke up their asses and being like, you guys are the next Strokes,
which was exactly what NME was saying already at this time. And, I remember from like an industry point of view thinking, I may be not going to like this for reasons we've just mentioned, but I'm very happy for Partisan Records because clearly they've got like the quote next big thing here.
Yeah. So it just seemed to me very, just, again, it felt very industry driven. I guess to expand on that, in case you're like, what exactly does he mean by that? Like, it just seemed like, it felt like they had the backing of the music industry, and they were sort of presenting themselves as the type of band that the music industry tends to like. And I think that they knew that. Again, they were young. I don't hold it against them, especially not now. But like, I think that they were playing the game, and they were like, we are taking the steps it takes to be a big band. And I think, understandably, people in the indie rock world don't always like seeing that. So their second record, 3D Country, 2023, is like completely different. It's like a classic rock album, stylistically. It also, they had made their first record with Dan Carey, the person who produces like Black Midi, Black Country Road, Squid, that kind of stuff. So that it felt all very in that kind of like modern day post-punk thing. And then they made the second record with James Ford, who's does bigger sounding rock records, and this was a bigger sounding rock record. They toured with King Gizzard and Greta Van Fleet on that record, which fits the classic rock vibes. And it was also very funny because people were quick to point out that at the same time, a band called Goose was rising, who were a jam band. And on this record, Geese were like at least jam band adjacent. I mean, you can find reviews that reference Ween and Fish for like influences or comparisons for that record. So it's like, oh, now like Goose were the jam band, Geese were the indie rock band. Now Geese are kind of also a jam band. And for my take at the time was I was like, well, it's interesting they're doing something different, but it also felt kind of like, do they know who they are? Does this band have an identity? Is it sort of like you're just pivoting from copying one thing to copying another thing? I personally was not sold, I'll be honest. And, you know, I'm not alone. Like we said, again, they got a 9 on Pitchfork. Worth mentioning, the first 2 records got 6 point somethings on Pitchfork.
Right. The new record got a 9 on Pitchfork.
The new record got a 9 on Pitchfork. I don't have this stat off the top of my head. I don't know how many rising bands in a 4-year span went from 2 6s to a 9. That feels rare. So this happens. And then after 3D Country, Cameron Winter, the singer of Geese, he writes this solo record. It's what I learned from the GQ piece is he kind of like leaned into, he wanted it to be weirder, a little more difficult to grasp. And one of the reasons it was a solo record, honestly, he just said was because a lot of it didn't have drums. And he was just like, I don't want to bring this to Geese and be like, this is our new album, but nobody plays on it. So he did this record, and apparently the label, his manager, were not super sold on it. They didn't think people would get it or like it, which is apparently why it got the December release that it got, because they were like, let's put it out when all the year-end lists are done. It's not going to crack them anyway. That kind of thought process, which is so interesting, obviously, because what happens is this record gets liked by press way more than the first 2 Geese records.
Okay, hold on. One thing I do want to mention. That 2023 Geese record was not universally disliked by any means. There was a strong following as well. It's super high on Rate Your Music. Like, people like that record. So there was a fan base out there waiting for more Geese, and that never,
Right. No, for sure. And that's why I kind of like tried to, and the Needle Drop had that on his year-end list. And I
exactly.
I kind of tried to preface with like, this is kind of like my perspective, my view of things. I don't think this is everybody's experience,
right.
But I can sort of only speak for myself here. But yes, I think, and I do think I've sort of since learned that 3D Country kind of, I think people took to it eventually, if not immediately. That like, I think the first record, I'm sure, I mean, it's also got good reviews on Rate Your Music and stuff, but I do think 3D Country in particular is an album that has sort of gotten more love that I've seen after the fact than immediately. And yeah, again, I'm sure there are tons of Geese fans who are like, I've been on the ride the whole time. None of this makes sense to me. Yeah. Or like, or maybe their response to like Pitchfork giving it a 9 is like, oh, welcome to the party. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, a different podcast might talk about this as like, oh, all of a sudden everybody understands why Geese is good. I actually saw a tweet today that was like, can someone explain why Getting Killed is so much better than 3D Country? And a lot of the responses are, it's not. They're both 10s. So right. Yeah.
I should say, we this would take this in so many directions. I actually went back. I've been listening to the new one a lot. I like it a lot. So I went back to both of the previous albums. 3D Country's still not really doing it for me. I don't know. Something, I love the solo album too, which you're about to talk more about. Yes. The solo album really, I was like, oh, now this is something special. This is something different after we got over the voice. And we've talked about this album on previous episodes about how big it made Cameron. He's already headlined, even before this new Geese album, he just headlined Carnegie Hall. He was selling out.
And I learned in the GQ piece that he became like, he's in a group of like 6 people under the age of 24 that have played, I think, with including like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez or something like that.
There you go. Yeah. And it was like, Pitchfork didn't review that solo album for like 6 weeks after it came out, because it's almost like in that 6 weeks, people heard it and the legend grew, and it was like very word of mouth. This solo album is really good. Like, wait, the Geese guy? Seriously? You know, that kind of
Right.
thing.
No, exactly. And I think it's a mix of the Geese guys seriously and people who had kind of taken to 3D country. You
Yeah,
know, like
for sure.
so he what I learned in this GQ piece and I found really fascinating is that he kind of was like, I know this record is more difficult. This is what I want to do. He also seemed pretty fed up at that point with the music industry. So I think this is becoming like a really fascinating story of like a band who started out kind of like with the whole machine behind them and then kind of being like, I don't like the way that works. I'm going to actively buck against that and getting even bigger and like kind of proving to the machine, like, trust me, not your gut about what's worked in the past. You know, like, cause like he even, there's a quote in the GQ piece where he's like, the label was telling him they don't feel good about the record. They don't know if they want to put it out. They think they should go with this later in the year release. And he's like, well, do you like it? And they were like, yeah. And he was like, then that's all that matters. He's like, if you like the album, why are you like anticipating this someone disliking it? And like obviously they probably at the time were like, that's a little naive. And now that it worked for him, he's like, okay, you're gonna trust me going forward, you know? So the solo record, like again, he uses his voice in a knowingly weirder way. And it was for me personally like a bit of a barrier to cross. Like at first I was like, I don't like the way this sounds, and it's grown on me. Um, and I would say, like, for me, listening to 3D Country now, I can hear more of the roots of the solo record and Getting Killed than I did at the time. I was just like, okay, like now they want to be Led Zeppelin and the Doors and the Rolling Stones, I guess. But now I'm like, oh, it's almost like they weren't letting themselves be as weird as you could kind of hear Cameron wanting to be. I think you can almost hear this artist like inside of a shell wanting to break out and not feeling confident enough yet, and then doing so on this lower stakes solo record, which becomes it takes off. It's the most hyped album, like in by press at least, of all the Geese records. Like it's on all these um it's been on all these best albums of 2025 so far lists, because all the 2024 lists were made already when it came out. And like you said, he's also had a very successful career so far, like playing big venues on the solo record. So it's both commercially and critically doing well. And it kind of gives him the confidence and the label the confidence to make and release what is Getting Killed, which is the weirdest, most experimental, most ambitious, most artistically risk-taking Geese record, and which they made with Kenny Beats, who now goes by Kenny Bloom or Kenneth Bloom, who's primarily a hip hop producer. He's worked with JPEG Mafia, who you mentioned is on it, but in the rock space, he's also worked with Idols.
With Geese's partisan label mates, Idols.
Yep. And he apparently, again, I learned a lot from GQ. He kind of said to the band, to Cameron, I think, like, if the rhythm section is tight, then you get more space to be weird. So he really focused apparently in the studio on getting the rhythm section to be super, super tight. And then that gave Geese the space for like these like jazzy freakouts and these like screamy parts and just this like, you know, it kind of, I feel like my elevator pitch on the record, if you have still not heard it, is like, I don't know, like Mick Jagger, but make it Tom York. It's just this, it is like this art rock record, but it has these classic rock sort of like signifiers. I don't know. Anyway, it's weird, but it's also like grounded and catchy and easy to listen to. Especially if you might still need to get past the voice if you haven't yet. But once you do, like most weird singers, it's like once you're past it, it never sounds weird ever again. Like Jeff Mangum or something. You know, like I remember my first time hearing Jeff Mangum being like, "Whoa, this guy's voice is super odd," and now I don't think it's odd. So yeah, it just seems like this is the record that, like, it makes sense that it's popping off. I think, like, for anyone who's like, oh, like, is this really much better than 3D Country? Like, I think it is. I mean, I think
it is.
Yeah, I think 3D Country, like I said, I think they're a little bit held back by something. I think they're still finding themselves. I think the solo record, he finds himself. He gets the confidence to be the artist that he knows he is. And then this album is like full band version. Like, you know, it's like the Panda Bear person pitch to Animal Collective Merryweather Post Pavilion kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And I don't know, as a fan of all the many bands that came before Geese and influenced them. I hear things in 3D Country that, like, I don't know how to put it into words, that turn me off, like versions of those things that I'm like, no, I don't want that. And which is not there for me in the new one somehow, if that makes
Yeah,
any
no, it
sense.
does. It does. And I would piggyback on that by adding that, you know, I hear a lot of bands that I'm familiar with in this record. Like I think one had the very hypey headlines I saw was like the most creative indie rock record of the year so far, or something like that. And I'm like, really? I mean, I don't know. It sounds like the Rolling Stones, the Doors, Radiohead, the Strokes. Like I feel like I can hear a lot of things that it's just kind of, but it never feels to me like it's too derivative of those things.
Yes,
It always kind of
that's
feels like
another way to say what I'm,
hmm
I guess, saying about 3D Country in a negative. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. So it's the year of Geese.
But like I said, I also went back to the first album, or what's technically the second album, the Strokes one. And now, now that I'm liking the new album a lot, and I listen to that album, it's like, you know what? This is a catchy album. I get why people were calling him the next Strokes. So without judging it too harshly, for the reasons we did the first time, it's not horrible to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, they not only is there obvious Radiohead influence, but I think you can compare the trajectory with Radiohead's third album being OK Computer. And I think the first Geese record is a little bit Pablo Honey. Like it's, Pablo Honey was pretty standard for 90s alternative rock. I could see why someone heard it and they were just like, I don't need another one of these. Only in hindsight, I think, is it clearly the first album by a genius band. So I think maybe you get a similar thing with Geese. Like, are they, like, at the time, oh, another Strokes, and now you hear the seeds for like a great, generationally great songwriter.
So are they the next Strokes? Are they the next Arcade Fire?
I think they're the next Arctic Monkeys.
There you go.
Because Arctic Monkeys were also the next Strokes on their first record, and by their third record, they were on some other shit. And I think that's Geese based. It's like that's the trajectory Geese is on. I feel like Clap Your Hands Say Yeah is such an offensive comparison because they've already cleared. Like this isn't like a debut hit.
Oh yeah, I was a huge Clap Your Hands Say Yeah fan, and very much part. If people want to say they were overhyped, well, guilty. But yeah, no, it was meant as a diss.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely right. To me, Geese have secured longevity. Love them or hate them. Like you got 4 records, including the solo album. Like this isn't. There's no sophomore slump from here. This is all. They're already deep in it, and they're still super young. So to me, this is a longevity. They would have to like massively fuck it up, but I guess we'll see.
So Hummer back.
Yeah, super exciting.
Yes. Last time Hum came back, we were super excited too. Last time they came back, they had a new album, which was so good.
Yeah. Inlet from 2020, which was their first album since the 90s. And I honestly, we're 5, almost 6 years removed. I feel pretty confident saying it's my favorite Hum record.
Yeah, it might be mine.
But yeah, they're finally playing live again. That album came out during COVID lockdown, so they couldn't tour right away or play shows right away. And then very, very sadly, the next year, their drummer Brian St. Pierre, how do you, I might be saying his name wrong, but he sadly passed away. And honestly, it kind of seemed for a minute there like that was it. They were like, Hum is done. I'm very, very happy that they've decided to play. They have Shiner's Jason Gherkin on drums. Shiner, who just released their first album in 5 years last week. And Jason drummed with them a bit when Brian took some time off back during the 2015 reunion. So he's, already sort of a kind of Hum member. And it's their first live show, not only since that record, but also since they played Dia de los Deftones in 2019, which now with the Deftones being also kind of a band of the year type band, I think in case it isn't obvious, I'll just say like Hum are one of Deftones' biggest influences. So the timing couldn't be better, I think, for Hum to come back. I think they are probably bigger than ever, just based on how many people seem to have gotten into both them and this sort of US heavy shoegaze scene that they helped invent over the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, and so the way we found out they were coming back is they've been announced on the lineup of this Slide Away touring festival, which now will be. Oh, is it? All right.
I think it's the third year, but we'll fact check that.
Okay.
But go on. But go on.
Yeah. Sorry. And it also co-headlined with the fest's curators, which are the band Nothing, who are a more modern, heavier shoegaze band.
Extremely influenced by Hum.
Extremely.
Everybody compared Nothing to Hum when they came out.
And so, like, it's just also kind of cool that Nothing brought back Hum last time Nothing brought back Whir, which I don't know if anyone saw that coming. So this Slide Away festival is becoming, or is officially, this huge force in shoegaze scene now. So it's cool we got that. It's kind of like how...
And they're not only bringing Hum back, but also Chapterhouse.
Yes.
Which is an even more OG shoegaze band from the OG British shoegaze scene of the early 90s. And these are their first shows since 2010, so even longer, much longer than Hum.
Yeah, so they're doing 2 nights each in New York City, LA, and Chicago. Chicago's second date just got added. New York City has shoegaze vets Love Lies Crushing and Swirlies. Chicago also has Love Lies Crushing, who are from the Midwest, and fellow Midwest Hum influenced band Cloakroom, who also collaborate with Matt Talbot and currently share Doyle with Nothing. LA has shoegaze adjacent rockers Avlov, and on both nights. And so yeah, it's just Slide Away killing it, Hum, Chapterhouse. We're super excited about it all.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I don't think it could be a better time for Hum to come back. And meanwhile, yep, go ahead.
Oh, we both think it would be a really great time for Sonic Youth to come back.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
So Sonic Youth teased something.
Yes, they put up a teaser. It's the art from their album Washing Machine with the words 2026 or the number, word, whatever on it. And I mean, it's probably a Washing Machine reissue. They put it up on the 30th anniversary of Washing Machine, which came out in 1995. It's probably a slightly belated 30th anniversary reissue, but it just says 2026. So we got to wonder, is there a chance of Sonic Youth shows next year? And I would be over the moon if that happened.
Yeah, and like we just said, it would be such a perfect time for Sonic Youth. I was thinking Sonic Youth don't get mentioned enough right now, because it's actually perfect to talk about right after the shoegaze thing. Hum get mentioned a lot. My Buddy Valentine, Slowdive, both currently active bands who get mentioned a lot as influences on bands that are very popular right now, on scenes that are very popular right now. Sonic Youth deserve all the credit in the world too for so much of the music we still love. And I don't know, they're not...
I mean, I think there's also a really good argument to be made that shoegaze wouldn't exist without Sonic Youth's influence. I don't think Sonic Youth are a shoegaze band at all. I don't want to be misconstrued, but I don't think, like, I think My Bloody Valentine were like clearly influenced by Sonic Youth. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, for a long time, Sonic Youth were just like one of the bands, like it's like if you're into alternative music, like they're on your top 10 band starter kit kind of. And it does seem a little bit like that's maybe faded. I don't know. I agree. I don't hear them name dropped, to your point, like not nearly as much as shoegaze bands.
One of my favorite albums of the year, I think I say this every week, is the Greet Death record. And like I said, I just saw Greet Death live, and Greet Death get called a shoegaze band. But what I was seeing on stage while watching them was Sonic Youth. They're slashing around the guitar, doing those crazy, noisy segments where everybody on stage is going crazy on their instruments. And I was brought back to seeing Sonic Youth in those moments.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally hear that. And yeah, I mean, you do hear, like, there are some newer artists who mention them. I mean, MJ Lenderman talks about them a lot. Scal talks about them a lot. That band Julie is obviously very Sonic Youth influenced. They sound a lot like Sonic Youth. So I wouldn't say like that they're, they definitely get talked about. But I do
Kim
think
Gordon's solo albums for sure
Kim Gordon's
do get a
solo
lot of love.
records get a lot of current love. They also they sound a lot more modern and less rock, and they fit with. I mean, that last record was like a rage rap slash trap album at times. Um, but yeah, I mean, Sonic Youth are one of my favorite bands of all time, and endlessly cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I think it's probably a reissue. Individual members of the band shared the teaser on their own Instagrams, which kind of made it seem like maybe this bigger thing than just like, oh, like a reissue kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, Kim Gordon and Thurston Moore are divorced. I would not be surprised if they don't want to play together anymore. The closest thing we've gotten to a Sonic Youth reunion was actually this past December. Thurston, Lee, and Steve played together at the Stone in New York. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have to wonder, like, are Thurston and Kim going to share a stage again? But I think we'll leave it with, if they do, it'll be one of the most exciting things in the world. I mean, I still to this day, if you were like, gun to your head, 5 best shows you've ever seen, any time I saw Sonic Youth makes that list pretty much. So
Meanwhile, Ink and Dagger have surprised us and come back once again.
yeah, comeback is the theme of the week. It's been a week of comeback announcements. And we found out after a Billboard teaser in Philly, which, first of all, I'm kind of shocked that Ink and Dagger had a billboard in Philly. But
it was confusing for sure. I wondered if it was like graffiti artist or whatever the word is. Bootleg.
It seemed really official. But
yeah.
They're reissuing their whole catalog on Trust Records, which is the very cool reissue label that's emerged to put out old hardcore albums. And although Ink and Dagger, I think, are like the newest band so far. Like, I mean, they've been doing like 7-second circle jerks, SSD, like classic 80s hardcore reissues. And now they're doing like late 90s with Ink and Dagger. But they're playing 3 shows at the church in Philly Halloween weekend. They got Painted Black on night 1, Dead Guy on night 2, Soul Glow on night 3. We don't know who's in the lineup, but Jeff Rickley from Thursday sang with them because their singer Sean passed away after they broke up. I should mention if that's not a given. So Jeff from Thursday sang with them when they briefly reunited in 2010, 2011. He's certainly been hyping this reunion a lot. So I'm hoping that means he's part of it, but I'm sure it'll be cool whoever they have.
Yeah, I also saw Michael Bourdain from Uniform hyping it.
Yeah,
another clue to possibly who could be involved.
He would be a good singer for Ink and Dagger, or Uniform would be a good addition to one of those bills. I hope it doesn't start and end with just 3 Philly shows. I hope we get more. I'd love for them to play New York again, but yeah, who knows? Maybe their former bassist Eric from Tim and Eric will even be involved.
A fun fact indeed.
Now, before we go on, one more big comeback this week. Again, week of comebacks. Kansas City emo veterans Boys Life put out their first song in 29 years. It's called Ordinary War. It's off their EP Ordinary Wars, which comes out in November on Spartan Records. And this is another one where I'm like, will they tour again? Or do you think they'll play Best Friends Forever 2026? I mean, it'd be a perfect fit. So happy to see the return of Boys Life.
What new music is out?
Yeah, something a little bit newer than all the comebacks and reissues, although the Boys Life song is new. But my favorite album of the week is an album that we've hyped a little bit in the past, which is the new album, the second album from Agriculture, The Spiritual Sound. Agriculture at first were calling themselves and being called ecstatic black metal, which was also a term I think Liturgy coined or at least used in the early days. And they certainly sort of did come off as like the rightful heirs to early Liturgy's throne. But on this album, I would say that they like totally transcend black metal, and they transcend being compared to any one band or another. It's like, it's just a lot of different types of metal and post metal. There's a song that's kind of like screamo meets speed metal, which I guess might sound like black metal to somebody too, but it specifically sounds like those things in my opinion. They've gotten better at incorporating these like slow chorus moments that will remind me of things like Mount Erie and Songs Ohia, and they're more seamless than ever on this album. And Emma Ruth Rundle sings backing vocals on the last song. It's just like a really gorgeous, intense, kind of black metal-y post-metal album. The lyrical content is like, they have 2 singers, one of whom was like super inspired by Zen Buddhism, and the other was sort of pulls from like queer and trans life and queer history and AIDS era literature. So it's just got like a lot on there. It's one of those, like, if you like intense, impactful music, then you have to listen to this, even if you like aren't a metalhead kind of albums. Also, I'm just gonna say it, kind of feels like black metal's back. We got this, Death Heaven, the Lamp of Murmur, and Black Braid Records. I feel like it's been like we had a big black metal rush in like the early 2010s, and it's just been like so much death metal lately. 2026, 2025, I feel like black metal's back.
Yeah, and this record's coming out on the Flenser, which in its is almost like a genre into itself. You pretty much described a lot of the reasons this label is its own genre, and I am also super excited again about that upcoming Chat Pile and Hayden Pedigo collab album, which is also coming on this label, which does a lot of the same things for me as you just described with that Agriculture record. And still spinning that Planning for Burial record, which came out earlier this year on Flenser as well. That also fits into that whole vibe. So
I agree.
just thought I'd give them a shout out while we're talking about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, if I feel like the biggest ambassador for the Flenser sound right now is Ethel Cain. So heads up, Ethel Cain fans, check out the new Agriculture album. All right. Well, we're already at one of our longest episodes to date. It's been a crazy week with a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm just going to kind of speed through the rest of the new albums that are out this week. Kind of tied for my favorite album, along with that Agriculture record, is this artist Prewn, Prewn. It's also her second record. It's called System. It's kind of like, I've described her as like Karen Dalton meets Dinosaur Jr. It's like this jagged chamber pop, lo-fi indie. It's a lot, really, really cool, really different than a lot of other stuff. Highly recommend. Stay Inside, New York City emo, kind of not emo anymore, more of an indie rock band now, are back with Lunger. It's their first album for Tiny Engines. Again, black metal is back. Woad from the UK have a super good melodic black metal record called Uncrossing the Keys. Recommended if you like Tribulation and Kvelertak, kind of like melodic riffs, harsh vocal kind of stuff. Nala Sinifro, who's like one of the leaders of the ambient jazz kind of renaissance, has done the score for The Smashing Machine, which is Benny Safdie and 824's new film. It's a drama about wrestler and MMA fighter Mark Kerr that stars The Rock as Mark Kerr. It's cool. It's not like her albums necessarily, but it stands on its own for sure. Heavy music legends Today Is the Day are back with new record Never Give In, which is part one of a planned 2-part concept album. And Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl is out, probably a record that some podcasts will talk about for 3 hours, and I haven't heard a note of it, so TBD.
Well, I do have to say it's kind of funny. I didn't even fully realize that was out today.
Too focused on Geese.
It's true. Honestly, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, this is what I'm full circle, right? It's like you're mad about what megastar is playing the Super Bowl. Why isn't Geese playing the Super Bowl? I review all of those except Taylor Swift, but there's a short blurb about it that, again, I have not heard it. In new notable releases on Brooklyn Vegan, and Bill reviews some records in Indie Basement, including Pinch's new album, Beautiful Noise. They're a UK band. It's kind of a 2000s throwback vibe. Rocket, who have been touring and opening for like all kinds of 90s bands like Ride and Smashing Pumpkins, and did they do some of the Sunday Real Estate shows too? I think like they also sound very 90s, and their record Artists for Rocket is out this week. Snoopers' new album Worldwide is out. It's the Nashville punk band's second record. It's on Third Man. Speaking of Jack White, and it was produced by John Congleton, who's one of our favorite producers. And Peel Dream Magazine, they have a new mini LP out. It's called Tourist. There's some Bell and Sebastian vibes, droney, shoegazy, all good stuff. Also, a handful of new songs out this week. Most excitingly to me is that Francis Quinlan from Hop Along has new music again. Finally, they have a new band called Parts Work. It's a collaboration with Kyle Pulley, who's was in the band Thin Lips and who's also a collaborator on, I think, every Hop Along record. And it features other frequent Hop Along collaborators in the mix, not as official members, including Chrissy, who's sang for Thin Lips, and Dominic Angelello, who is an early Hop Along member. It's incredible. It's just, if you've been waiting for more Hop Along or more Francis, like I certainly have, don't miss Parts Work, self-titled debut EP out in later this month. New single Trenton out now. Kind of in a similar realm, Remember Sports are back. I really liked their 2021 album, Like a Stone. which was kind of an indie punk thing. Now they're kind of doing a little more of like a Rap Boys Wednesday thing on their new single Across the Line. It's their first release on Get Better Records. And last but definitely not least is that Dry Cleaning have announced their third album, Secret Love. It was produced by Kate Laban after doing their first two with John Parrish. It's out in January on 4AD. And the first single is the 6-minute Hit My Head All Day, which is dubbier and synthier than anything they've done before. You can feel Kate Laban's influence. It's cool stuff.
Yeah. And that Kate Laban album came out last week. Really good. So check that out as well if you didn't already. Good reminder. And check out that Nico Case album that just came out the same week too. It's been like, so much good stuff. Hard to keep up.
So much good stuff. All right, Dave, take us home.
Lucy Dacus brought out Zoran Mamdani at All Things Go, causing Eric Adams to clearly drop out of the race. 9 Inch Nails have announced a new leg of their 2026 dates for their Peel It Back tour with Boys Noise, which I did notice they are not billing as 9 Inch Noise, which is what they are billed as at Coachella. But it is a continuation of that 9 Inch Nails Boys Noise collaboration that they've been doing on
more fuel to the fire that the Coachella set may be a one-off, unique, different thing than the tour.
Right. Fellow dark legends, The Cure, have announced their first headline dates of 2026. Their UK dates with support from Slowdive, Mogwai, Just Mustard, and more. Original Turnstile guitarist Brady Ebert has reappeared after parting ways with the band back in 2022. He's debuted a new band called The Set, S.E.T. stands for Self-Evident Truth, at a hometown Baltimore show. Feet First Productions was in the house, and they've got the full video you can find and watch. Meanwhile, speaking of Turnstile, an investigation has been launched into the incident at the band's recent Richmond show where fans were allegedly pepper sprayed by police while attempting to stage dive. In similar news, Malachi Green is no longer in Scow, which I did notice at CBGB Fest, actually, when I saw their set. But he has just released a debut EP by his new band called Skin Show. Stranger Things star and pop music video star and musician Finn Wolfhard and his father Eric are turning Bob Mayer's excellent 2016 Replacements biography Troubled Boys into a movie. Meanwhile, that Bruce Springsteen movie starring the guy from The Bear is
Jeremy Allen White
in theaters now, soon.
The trailer just came out, I think, right?
Well, it also played at Film Fest. The commercials are on TV. I know that.
I think it's so interesting that within a year we have Jeremy Allen White as Springsteen, Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan. It's just funny.
It is. 2025 continues to be an amazing year for 90s Britpop. Gene played their first show in 21 years this week. And in the Brooklyn Vegan shop, we've got new exclusive vinyl from American Football, a new splatter vinyl pressing of LP3, which features a lot of fun guest stars. An expanded edition
like Haley Williams and Rachel Goswell from Slowdive.
Yes, it's a lot of Slowdive today. An expanded edition of Modern Baseball's Perfect Cast EP that they're hilariously calling the 30th anniversary edition. They're got that
truly ahead of their time.
Cloudy blue vinyl. We also have a 25th anniversary edition of The Offspring's Conspiracy of One. We've got a 15th anniversary edition of the Saw 6 soundtrack, which is amazingly on saw blade shaped vinyl with blood red splatter. It has songs by Converge, Hatebreed, Every Time I Die, Nitzareb, Kitty, Typo Negative, and more. That's actually a Trust Kill release. All of that and more is at shop.brooklynvegan.com. Hey, please subscribe to this podcast right now on Spotify or Apple or anywhere. Just click that subscribe. We will talk to you next week.
Thanks for tuning in. Dave and I will be back every Friday morning with new episodes of BV Weekly. And in between the episodes, you can always get much more from us at brooklynvegan.com, on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can pick up records from us at shop.brooklynvegan.com. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends about us, subscribe to the show, give us a good rating. All that little stuff goes a really long way. It really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much to Joe D'Agostino from Cymbal Z Guitars and Empty Country for the great theme song. Our mix engineer, Nick Gray. Thank you again, and see you next time.